Okay, good evening, everyone. So in the last classes, we discussed about the VPC and we created one VPC and we created EC2 instances in that VPC also, right? So quickly, let us review what all we have done in the last classes, like the steps to create the VPC. So first, we created one VPC. And what is the CIDR block we have used? What is the CIDR block we have used? And I think we created this in the Northern Virginia region. And we have given some name like my first VPC or something, right? And then we have given the CIDR block range as 192.168.0.0/16 we have given. And then we created one internet gateway because internet gateway is mandatory. And the purpose of the internet gateway is it is responsible to establish the communication with your VPC and the internet. If you don't have an internet gateway, there is no public IP and there is no communication with the public IPs. And then we created one subnet, which is a public subnet, right? And let me name it as a public. And here we have given 192.168.1.0/24. And it requires one route table, which we already created. By default, you will get a route like VPC CIDR block. And the target will be local, right? And to make the route table as a private, we created another route like this through the internet gateway. That means it will create a connection with the internet gateway and we associated the public subnet with the route table. And then we created one more route table, one more subnet called private subnet. And we named it as a private. And here we have given 192.168.2.0/24. And here also we created, we are using the default route table in which we got 192.168.0.0/16 through local. And then we created something called what we call that NAT instance or NAT gateway. And we haven't associated that with internet gateway. This is how it looks like. This is what we have done. Forget about the NACL because NACL will be available here. And by default, the NACL will allow all the traffic from anywhere across the globe, inbound and outbound with the default NACL. And we created one EC2 instance here. Let us name it as a 1. And here we created one more EC2 instance. Let us say it is a 2. And 1 and 2 are able to communicate with each other. And the computer 1, the instance 1 will get a public IP and as well as a private IP also. Whereas the second instance, it only get private IP address. There will be no public IP. Even if you assign a public IP, your internet gateway is unable to identify how to establish the communication because the route table is not associated. What if you have another VPC? Let us say you have another VPC created. Let us say this is the another VPC. And always, whenever you are creating multiple networks, always it is recommended to use a different CIDR block. Can't we create with the same? Yes, you can, but it is not recommended. Because sometimes you might need to establish the connection between two VPCs. If both are having the same network, which will not work. It will create some kind of network conflict, like IP address conflict. So what I do is, for the second VPC, let us assume that we have created like this. And this also requires an internet gateway. This also requires an internet gateway. And in the second VPC, we are creating one public subnet. The same way we are creating one more public subnet. Now we will create that also. And here I will use 10.0.1.0/24. Can we use in that way? Yes, because /16 means 10 and 0 should be constant throughout the VPC. 10 and 0 should be constant. And here the 192 and 168 is the constant. You should not change that. Okay. And this also requires a route table. And we will connect like this. We will connect like this. For this, what we have to do is, there will be a default route like this, 192.168.0. Sorry. What is the route? 10 series, right? 10.0.0.0/16 through local. You will get this by default. There is no doubt in that. And we have to create one more like this through the internet gateway. Then we will create one more called private subnet, because we need the private subnet also. And for the private subnet, we have to use 10.0.2.0/24. This will be the private. And this will be the public. So this also requires a route table. And we will connect like this. And here you will get 10.0.0.0/16 through local. And you will get a connection like this, right? And this will be the connection automatically established. Now the question is, if I create a EC2 instance here, and if I name that as a 3, this will get the public IP and this will get the private IP. And if I create an EC2 instance in the private subnet, and if I name it as a 4, it will get only the private IP address, right? Now the question is, 1 and 2 are able to communicate with each other, 3 and 4 are able to communicate with each other. So does 1 and 3 are able to communicate with each other using the private IP addresses? The meaning of the question is, does these two VPCs can communicate with each other or not? Can these two VPCs can communicate with each other or not? Let us say if you log into the computer 1, can you access computer 3? Yes, because it has a public IP. But now my question is, can we access using the private IP addresses? I would like to communicate internally. I don't want to use any internet. Technically speaking, can the 2 and 4 are able to communicate with each other? No, because by default, over the internet, private IP addresses are unable to communicate with each other. And also the VPC1 and the VPC2. Let us say this, I will create in Mumbai, in a different region. You can create in the same region also, that doesn't matter. Assume that that was in the Mumbai. By default, the VPC1 and VPC2 are two different virtual networks and they cannot communicate with each other by default. Even in this room, if I maintain one network and if you are maintaining another network, these two networks cannot communicate with each other. If you need a communication between two VPCs in a secure way, then we have to use a concept called VPC peering. We have to use a concept called VPC peering. The VPC peering will establish the communication between two different VPCs using the private IP address. Like, let us say you are having one network and I am having one network. If I connect those two networks with a cable, are they able to communicate with each other? No, they cannot. No two networks are able to communicate with each other by default, even if you connect them with using a physical cable. That requires a router. In that, you need to create some routing protocols and you have to do a lot of things. In the same way, in this diagram, you can see the VPC1 and the VPC2 are connected with each other using a service called VPC peering. Now, just for an example, assume that the IP address of the computer 4 is 10.0.2.24 and the IP address of the computer 2 is 192.168.2.11, just for an example. So by something you logged into the computer 2 And from here, you're trying to access this particular IP address. You're trying to access this particular IP address from here. Like you are sending some file or you're logging into the 4 using the RDP protocol, whatever it is, you're trying to communicate. So whenever you initiate the connection, what will happen? You are sending a request on 3389 port because it is RDP protocol. And what is the destination? 10.0.2.24, right? I am here. I am on second computer. I am trying to log into the fourth computer. 2 is the source and 4 is the destination, right? So this is the destination IP address. Then what will happen? Computer 2 don't know how to reach the destination. So first the request will go to the route table. In the route table, it will check for all available routes. So first it will go for the existing route. Does this IP address belongs to this range? No. Then it will go for the second route, which is not available. So that the computer 2 don't know that to reach the instance 4, it has to use the VPC peering. So what you have to do here, you have to create 10.0.0.0/16. That means if the destination is this VPC, then use VPC peering. If you create that route in all the subnet route tables, then all the instances in VPC1 is able to communicate with VPC2. You have to create the same thing in all route tables like this. If you don't create in the public subnet route table, then your public subnet instance cannot communicate with the VPC2. For two-way communication, you must create that particular route in the route table. So same way, if you don't create that, if you don't create this one, then what will happen? Your subnet don't know how to reach the internet. In the same way, if you don't create this one, your subnet don't know how to reach the VPC2. By using the VPC peering, we can establish the communication across 2 different VPCs. And the 2 VPCs can be in the same region, or the 2 VPCs can be in the 2 different regions. And even you can maintain the VPCs in 2 different accounts also. Like one VPC will be in my account and the second VPC will be in your account. Even in that case also, you can configure the VPC peering in the same region or across 2 different regions also. Every possible combination is possible with the VPC peering. What is this VPC peering is? By using a VPC peering, we can establish a secure connection across 2 different VPCs. Like they can communicate with each other securely without using the internet or without leaving the Amazon network. Every communication is possible within the Amazon network only. And here also we have some kind of minimum requirements that VPCs should not have overlapping CIDR blocks. What is the meaning of that? Those 2 VPs must not have even one common IP address. The meaning of that is VPC network range, VPC CIDR range must be unique. You should not use the same CIDR range for both the VPCs. So you can create VPC peering for the below scenarios. VPC1 and VPC2 can be in the same account and same region. VPC1 and VPC2 can be in the same account and different regions. Different account and let us say same region. So you have VPC1 and VPC2. VPC1 and VPC2 in my account and in same Northern Virginia region. VPC1 in Northern Virginia, VPC2 in Mumbai, but both are in my account. In the third one, VPC1 is in my Amazon account, Northern Virginia region. VPC2 in your Amazon account, Northern Virginia region. In the fourth one, VPC1 in my account, Northern Virginia region. VPC2 is in your Amazon account and in different region called Mumbai region. So in all possible cases, you can create the VPC peering. And using the VPC peering, the VPCs are able to communicate with each other. But here we have to make a note like, after creating the VPC, the VPC peering, you must update the route tables of all subnets by creating a route through the VPC peering connection for the destination VPC network. Otherwise, your subnets don't know how to reach the second VPC. That is a mandatory. So to do the practical for the VPC peering, you must need two VPC, right? Without having a two VPC, how can we create the VPC peering? You cannot. That's why what we do is, let us create another VPC. And this time we are going to use a launch VPC wizard, which will create that entire VPC, all the required subnets, NAT gateway, and every component, like including the routes to be created automatically. Everything will be done automatically. This time, create a VPC in Mumbai region, because I would like to check the VPC peering between two VPCs across two different regions. That's why I will create in Mumbai using a launch VPC wizard with the following details. So what exactly we need? The first one we need is VPC CIDR block, right? VPC CIDR block. And I would like to use 10.0.0.0/16. Then I need one public subnet. And 10.0.1.0/16. And I need one private subnet. And for this, I need a CIDR block 10.0.2.0/16. And what else we need? Route tables to be created, routes to be created, all the things will be automatically created. And we need to create a NAT gateway also. And the minimum requirement to create the NAT gateway is elastic IP address, right? So before proceeding with the launch VPC or VPC creation using the launch VPC wizard, we have to allocate, I can say a prerequisite, allocate one elastic IP address for NAT gateway. Because without having a NAT gate, you cannot create a NAT instance using the launch VPC wizard. That is not supported. So you have to use the NAT gateway only. Prerequisite to be allocate one elastic IP address for NAT gateway, so that the NAT gateway will be automatically created by the wizard, launch VPC wizard. And in the private subnet, one additional route to be created, right? That also automatically created. We don't do anything. Just we have to select these options. So generally to create the VPC, first we have to create the VPC, internet gateway to be created, subnets to be created, both the subnets, route table to be created, and new route to be created, this route table to be created, and all the things we have to do manually, right? But using the launch VPC wizard, everything will be automatically created. That we will see how to do that and all the things. Once we are done with this, we will verify all the things got created as per the requirement or not. We'll go to each and every component and we will observe them. And remember, the NAT gateway is available on a chargeable basis. That is not a free tier eligible. So once you're done with your practical, delete that NAT gateway service. Don't keep that running in your account. Okay, so quickly let me get into our Amazon account. This is our Amazon account, and in which first let me cross check that do we have the VPC which we created in the Northern Virginia region. I think we named it as a My First VPC, right? Okay. So here, yes, we have the VPC, right? Okay. And let me also check that do we have any EC2 instances running or not? Otherwise, what I do is I will create the EC2 instance 1 so that will be created while we are creating the VPC 2. But it seems we have the VPC 1. This is the 1 and this is the 2. Let me rename it just to avoid the confusion. Because in the diagram, we named it like 1 and 2, right? That's why I'm doing like this. Okay. All right. So now we have to create a VPC in Mumbai region. To create the VPC in Mumbai, first make sure to change the region to Mumbai region. Right now, I am in Northern Virginia. Click on the region name and just go to Mumbai. And then just click on VPC so that it will take you to the VPC service. Before using the launch VPC wizard, let me cross check that is there any additional VPCs running in my Mumbai region. Now only default VPC is running. Always you can identify that every default VPC will get this IP address range 172.31.00/60. That is the default VPC CIDR range. Okay. So now we have to create using the launch VPC wizard, right? So here, click on the VPC dashboard, then click on create VPC. This time you have to select VPC and more. Earlier we used to select this option, right? VPC only, but now select VPC and more. Then here you can give your name of the VPC. I will say my second, so that the name will become my second VPC. You can see here. Everything will be represented here like a preview. Then what is the CIDR block? This is the one which we are going to create. So you can keep that. If you have a different requirement, you can change that also. Okay. And in how many availability zones you would like to create? I would like to create only one at this moment. So here IP version 6 CIDR block, keep that no IP version 6. Tenancy default. Number of availability zones, select 1. Because by default, it's selected as a 2. And you can see there are two public subnet 1 and public subnet 2. Private subnet 1 and private subnet 2. But my goal is to create only one public subnet and one private subnet. So select 1. And you can see public and private. And also the public subnet is associated with one route table, public route table, and private subnet is associated with a private route table. And the public subnet route table is having a route through the internet gateway, IGW. This we don't know, we will remove that. Okay, right. So here just scroll down. How many public subnets you need? 1. How many private subnets? 1. And NAT gateways. Do you need a NAT gateway? If yes, you have to select in one AZ. And then you have to click on create VPC. But NAT gateway is not a free tier eligible. I will create the VPC without a NAT gateway. What will happen if you create the NAT gateway VPC without a NAT gateway? There will be no internet connection, internet browsing in the private subnets. But I don't need the internet connection. So that's why here under NAT gateway, I will select none. If I need, we can create later. Then here select VPC endpoint as a none. Select VPC endpoint as a none. Now you can see that if you select the VPC, it has a two public subnets. Sorry, two subnets. One is a public one and one is a private one. If you select public one, it is associated with a public route table, and then it has a network connection through the internet gateway. And if you select the private subnet, it has a private route table which doesn't have any additional routes. Okay. So once you select all the options, click on create VPC. Now it is creating all these components. It will create the VPC. It will create the subnet. You can see it created two subnets, one internet gateway. Internet gateway got attached to the VPC. Route table got created. Route created and associate the route table to the subnet, and another route table created, and that was associated to the route table. And here you can click on view VPC. Your VPC is ready. Just within like 2 minutes, the entire VPC got created. So what exactly you have to check? This is the VPC we created, right? So we have to check, is there two subnets or not, right? Click on subnets. Public one and private one. The first one is the public one. I think we didn't selected that range, right? Okay. Even you didn't mention that. Give me a second. Subnet ranges 10.0.1.0/24, right? Because of that, they took a different subnet. But that also will work. But here we have noted something else, right? Okay. Give me a second. Let me delete that VPC. We will create one more time. Okay, VPC got deleted. So let us repeat the same steps. Create VPC, VPC and more. I will say second. So this is what we know. Number of availability zones 1, subnet 0, this one. Then automatically they will select, automatically they will select their own subnets. They will customize as per their requirement. But we have to select the CIDR block for your public one and private one subnets. For that here, you have to click on customize subnet CIDR blocks. You have to click on this arrow. And here you have to select what is the public subnet CIDR block. And then private subnet CIDR block. This is what we have decided, right? 10.0.1.0/24, 10.0.2.0/24. And then everything else is the same. Create VPC. If you don't customize, Amazon will pick some random subnets. Okay, so the VPC got created, right? And if I click on subnets, you can see there is a public subnet and private subnet. This is the public subnet 10.0.1.0, private subnet 10.0.2.0. And if I select the public subnet and if I click on route table, you can see it was associated with second RTB public. And if I click on private one subnet, it was associated with second RTB private one, right? Okay. So now I selected the private subnet. In the route table, what are the routes we have? Only default route. And if I select the public subnet, you got the default route along with the 0000 through the internet gateway. That's what the route to be available in the public route table. And then internet gateways. You can see there is an internet gateway for the second VPC, right? Second IGW that was created and it was attached to the VPC also. And what else we have to check? Nothing. Now what I do is I will create one EC2 instance and I will name it as a 3. 3 is the EC2 instance in the public subnet of Mumbai VPC. They can communicate with each other using the public IP, but my requirement is to establish the communication between 1 and 3 using the private IP address, which is not possible by default. So I will create the instance 3 and we will check the communication between 1 and 3 using the private IP address. And then we will create the VPC peering. Okay, right. So quickly, let me launch the instance 3. Launch instances. I will launch Windows so that you will get a graphical user interface and easy to understand. I'm creating Windows server. T2.micro. Okay, I don't know whether I have access or not. I will create a new key pair. Give me a second. Mumbai, a new. Create pair. And then in the network, create that in the second VPC. Select the public. Select the public. And I will assign public IP also. Okay, it seems I don't have any security groups. Let me create one security group. Obviously, we don't have because this was a newly created VPC, right? So you don't get any subnets by default except the default security group. So scroll down and let me launch instance. So instance will be created in some time. So now what exactly we are trying to do is I will log in to this computer 1. I will log into this one. And from here, I will try to log into the computer 3 using the private IP address, which is not possible. So I will log into the computer 1 and then I will open the remote desktop connection. So if I try to log into this, that means I am trying to establish the communication. That is the simplest method to check the communication, right? So I will do that, which is not possible. Then we will come here and we will create the VPC peering and we will create all the appropriate routes. Okay. And then we will again check that 1 and 3 are able to communicate with each other. Even you can check from 1 to 4. You can check from 2 to 3, 2 to 4 also. Anything is possible. Okay. For all these combinations, that will work in the same way. Without VPC peering, 1 cannot be communicate with 3 and 4. 2 cannot communicate with 3 and 4. But after creating the VPC peering, 1 and 2 are able to communicate with 3 and 4. But why I'm setting 1 and 3? To log into the 2, first I have to go to Bastion host. From there, I have to log in here. From here to I have to log in here, which is a little bit confused, right? So directly we will check from 1 to 3 using the private IP. If that is possible, all other things are possible. Okay, so first let us log into the computer 1. So after this, log into EC2 instance 1. From there, log into instance 3. 1 is in VPC 1, like in Northern Virginia VPC, and 2 is in Mumbai VPC. And while you are checking this, use private IP only. Because if you use public IP, that will be communication. That is possible to communicate because that communication will go through the internet. So for this, we need to get the login details, right? Login details. Let me write down the login details here. Instance 1. So how to log into the instance 1? You have to use the public IP only, right? Public IP and then username. and then you need to get the password. And for instance 2, we are not directly logging into the instance 2. We are logging in from instance 1 to instance 2. So I will write down the private IP because we have to verify the communication using the private IP, not using the public IP. Username and the password. Okay. So let me get all the details. Wait, this is not 2, this is 3. Private IP is 10.0.1.39. Username, administrator. Password, click on connect, go to RDP client, get password. The same way like how you will get the password. Decrypt password. And this is the password of the instance number 3. Okay. So now I will go to the Northern Virginia to get the details of instance 1. So I will go to Northern Virginia region. So here it is. Public IP. Username is administrator. And the password. Click on connect. RDP client. Get password. Browse. Here is the password. Okay. So now first what I do is I will log into the EC2 instance 1. Can we log into the instance 1 using the private IP? From my location, can I log into the instance 1 using the private IP? No, you cannot. You cannot log into the instance 1 using the private IP. The private IP communication is only possible if both are in the same network. Are we in the same network of the AWS network? Are we in the same network as the instance is running? Instance is somewhere in the AWS data center. We are at our house or we are at our office, which is not two same networks. Both are two different networks. Okay, let me open the remote desktop connection. Let me enter the IP address. And this is the password. I'm logging in to the EC2 instance 1. Why we are unable to log in? It seems we are unable to log into the instance 1 also. What are the things we have to check? What are the things we have to check? First, everybody will check security group, right? Whether the RDP protocol is open from everywhere or not. What is the security group? We have attached to the 1. Select the 1. Click on the security tab. And this is the security group. Just click on that. It will open the security group. And you can see that the 33810 is open from anywhere. Then what is the issue? What is the issue? Any guess? What we have done in the last session, we modified the NACL with different rules, right? So if you block something, it will not allow. So this is in which VPC? My first VPC, right? In the Thursday's class, we discussed about what we call that, the NACL concept, and we created a new NACL and we attached that to our my first VPC. And in the inbound rules, we have modified a lot of things. So finally, did we allow all incoming traffic or at least 33810 traffic? We don't know, right? We don't remember also. So that also we have to verify. So let me go to the network ACLs. And this is the one which we attached with our public subnet. That means in which our EC2 instance 1 is running. So I have to check the inbound rules. What is the inbound rule? For my IP address, deny. For my IP address, it is denied. Then how it is able to communicate? No, right? So that's why what I do is, I will go to what we call that, we will remove that, and we will use the default subnet itself, the one which comes with your VPC. Select the default NACL, click on subnet associations, edit subnet associations, just revert back whatever the changes we have done in the last session. Now our VPC is using the default NACL, or in the attached NACL, open all inbound traffic and open all outbound traffic. Then it will start working. Okay. So now let me click on connect. And now you got this. Okay. So whenever you are unable to log in, you have to check the NACL security group. If both are good, you have to check that whether the internet gateway is attached with your VPC or not. If there is no internet gateway, in that case also it will not work. So right now, in which computer we are in? Instance 1. Let me open a notepad. Just let me note down the details of the instance 3, so that no need to, what we call that, minimize and maximize the things all the time. So these are the details of the instance 3, right? Okay. Okay. So right now I am in instance 1. To log into the instance 3, I have to use these details. So click on start and open a remote desktop connection in the instance 1, not in your laptop. And then enter the IP address 10.0.1.39. Click on connect and you will get an error, network timed out, because your VPC 1 cannot communicate with VPC 2. Two VPCs cannot communicate with each other. That is a default behavior. If that is the case, you can connect a cable with your home, with your network, like from your network to your neighbor's network, and you guys are able to communicate, which is not possible. If two different networks are able to communicate with each other by default, there is no use of internet. We don't need an internet. Without a network, just you can connect a cable with someone else and we can talk to each other. It requires a router, route table, and requires a lot of things. And you got that connection error, right? That means instance 1 is unable to communicate with instance 2. Or we can say that VPC 1 cannot communicate with, or I think we can say VPC 1 is unable to communicate with VPC 2. That means instances in VPC 1 cannot communicate with instances in VPC 2. To establish the communication between two different VPCs, you must create the VPC peering, right? So here, create a VPC peering between my first VPC, which is in Northern Virginia, and second VPC, which is in Mumbai region. After creating the VPC peering, it will not establish the communication because your subnets don't know how to reach the destination VPC instance. For that, create a route, or I can say create an additional route in all the route tables of subnets in both VPC as below. The first one, VPC 1. I can say on VPC 1. How should be the route is, the first one will be the destination and the second one will be the target, right? These are the two things you will get. What you have to do is in the destination, you have to provide the destination VPC CIDR block and peering connection. And on VPC 2, you have to give VPC1 CIDR block. Like if you have 10 subnets, on all 10 subnets, you have to do that. Instead of 10 subnets, if you are creating on only one subnet, then that one subnet is accessible from the other VPC. If you would like to establish the communication from all the subnets, you have to create this route in all the subnets. And after creating the VPC peering, we have to approve that also, that I will show you. So here what we are doing, both VPCs are in the same AWS account. Both VPCs are in the same AWS account, but the VPCs are in two different regions. If you would like to check, you can create one VPC in your network, and you can ask your friend to create another VPC in their network, and you can create the VPC peering in that way also. Okay, right. So now we will see that how to do that. We have to do the 3 and 4 steps. 3 and 4. So first, how to create the VPC peering. So while creating the VPC peering, first we have to decide from where you would like to create the peering. From where we will create? Northern Virginia. Okay, from anywhere you can create. There is no restriction. So from where we are creating the VPC peering, that is called as requester. If you are creating from my first VPC, that means from Northern Virginia VPC, the my first VPC will become a requester. And if you are creating from the second VPC, then that will be the requester. In our case, we are creating from my first VPC. So my first VPC will be the requester and the second VPC will be the acceptor. But both belongs to myself only. So my first VPC will be the requester. It will request for the VPC peering, and the second VPC has to accept the request. As both VPCs belongs to myself, I will request from here and I will accept from here. You have to accept. That is the mandate. If the both VPCs belongs to two different accounts, you have to ask your friend to accept the VPC peering connection, because that doesn't belongs to you. You are not the owner of that second account. Okay. So as we decided to initiate all the process from Northern Virginia, what we are going to do is first go to Northern Virginia region and select the VPC service. Once you are in the VPC service, on the left side, you can find out an option called peering connections. By default, there is no peering connection available. Click on create peering connection. I will say that Virginia, or no, not Virginia. I can say my first VPC to second VPC, just for identification, because if I have multiple VPC peerings, then I need to identify which connection belongs to which VPCs. So you can give any name, that doesn't matter. So select a local VPC to peer with. With which VPC? Wait a second. So from which VPC you would like to send the request? Because in my account, I have two VPCs. So who is the requester? My first VPC. Select the my first VPC. It will show you the CIDR block of my first VPC. And then where is the another VPC with which you are trying to create the VPC peering? First thing, is it in your account or in a different account? My account. Select my account. What if the second VPC is in a different account? You have to select another account and you have to provide the account ID of the second AWS account. Like if you are checking, if you are trying to create with your friend's VPC, then here you have to give the account ID of your friend. Okay, right. But in our case, we have the VPC in the same AWS account. And then the second VPC is in which region? Not in the same region. Select another region and then select the region name. The region is Mumbai, right? Select the Mumbai. And here you have to provide, you cannot select from drop down. You have to provide the VPC ID of the second VPC. So if you go to that second VPC is in Mumbai, right? Actually, before starting, you have to collect all the details. And if you go to your VPCs in the Mumbai, this is the second VPC, right? This is the acceptor. So this is the VPC ID. Okay. Or you can copy from here also. This is also the VPC ID. But here, easy to copy because you can click on this icon. So that will be copied. Okay. So here you have to paste the VPC ID of the second one and click on create peering connection. So what is the status here? Initiating request to this VPC. Just wait for just 1 minute. Let me go back to the peering connections. And what is the status? Pending acceptance. Can I accept from here? I cannot accept because I sent the request. What is the use if I'm going to accept on behalf of the second VPC? I cannot, right? Who has to accept? Second VPC. Okay. Where is the second VPC? Mumbai. Just switch to the Mumbai region. And if you scroll down, you can see the peering connection. But you don't see any name tag here because the tag was assigned by my first VPC. You can use your own tag. And here you can see pending acceptance, right? From Mumbai side. Select the VPC peering, click on actions, and here you can click on accept and accept request. Still, they are unable to communicate with each other because there is no appropriate route. You can see to send and receive traffic across the VPC peering connection, you must add a route to the peered VPC in one or more of your VPC route tables. Just wait till the status is available or active. Now it is done. Now we have to create the routes in the route tables, right? So first we will create on VPC 1. How many subnets we have? 2 subnets. And we have 2 route tables. On both the route tables, you have to create this route. Okay. So first let us go to the Northern Virginia region. Go to your route tables. So this is a public route table. How to create a route? Click on the routes and click on edit routes, add route, enter the destination VPC CIDR block. Destination VPC CIDR block. And the target, you have to select peering connection. And then it will show you the list of peering connections. Select that and click on save changes. Still, we are not yet done. We have one more subnet, right? That also we have to modify. So select the private RT. The same thing you have to repeat. 10.0.0.0/16. Target peering connection. Select that and click on save changes. On the VPC 1, we created that additional route through the peering connection on all the route tables. Then the next one is you have to go to Mumbai region. Then go to the route tables. First select public route table. Go to the routes. Click on edit route. Here you have to mention the CIDR block of VPC 1. That means the other VPC. Target peering connection. Select this. Click on save changes. We have one more route table. Private. Edit routes. Add route. So we created all the routes, right? Now both the VPCs are able to communicate. How to check? Go to the VPC 1, I mean the one instance number 1. Earlier, whenever you're trying to access using the private IP of the third instance, which got failed. Now we are getting the things. That means you are able to log in. Let me log in and I will show you that we are logging in to the Mumbai region VPC. Not in the same VPC, we are not connecting. We need that clarity also, right? Just wait a second. What happened? Okay, the username is wrong. How to identify on which computer we are in? On the top right side, you can see a label, right? Where you can see the IP address of the computer, in which region it is, everything you can see. Just wait so that we can confirm that we logged in to the VPC2 instance using the private IP address from VPC1. If one VPC instance is able to communicate with other VPC instance using the private IP address, we can say that there is a communication between both the VPCs, right? Okay, just wait for 2 minutes because these are the T2.micro instances. It will take a lot of time. You can click on yes or no, that doesn't matter. You can click anything. So here you will get the details of the instance. And here you can see IP address 10.0.1.39. That means completely we are communicating with a different network, which is in a different VPC. So see here, you can see availability zone as AP-South-1A. And the IP address of this machine is 10.0.1.39. So if I close this, you can see that I logged in from 192.168.1.62, which is in US East 1A, right? So we established the communication from one VPC to other VPC. Okay. Now I have a different question about this VPC peering. What if you would like to create the communication across multiple VPCs? Multiple VPC. Let us say here, I have a VPC A, and here I have a VPC B, and here I have a VPC C. I would like to establish the communication with all the things. Basically, the VPC peering is non-transitive peering. Do you know what is the meaning of non-transitive peering? Or what is the meaning of a transitive? What is the meaning of a transitive? Have you heard about like transitive law? No. Okay. So basically, A equal to B and B equal to C, it will like A equal to C, right? This is what the transitive law. What is the meaning of non-transitive then? Completely opposite. Even if A equal to B and B equal to C, A will not equal to C. That is what the meaning of a non-transitive. If you apply the same thing to the VPC peering, assume that there is a VPC peering between A and B, and there is a peering between A and C, or B and C, that doesn't matter. So these are the peering connections. Because the VPC peering is non-transitive, there will be no automatic peering between B and C. If you need to establish the communication between B and C, you have to create the peering manually. If A equal to B, B equal to C, automatically A equal to C, right? That is what transitive. Because the peering is non-transitive, as you created the peering between A and B, A and C, it will not create automatic communication or automatic peering between B and C. That is what the meaning of non-transitive peering. Okay, that is most important thing. 99% someone might ask you when you go for an interview that what kind of connection is VPC peering, or they might show like I created a peering connection between A and B and B and C. Does A and C are able to communicate with each other or not? No, because that is a non-transitive peering. Okay, so VPC peering is a non-transitive transitive peering, which means there will be no automatic peering connection created. Example, VPC peering connection created between VPC 1 and VPC 2. VPC peering connection created between VPC 2 and VPC 3. And here there will be no automatic peering connection created between VPC 1 and VPC 3 because it is non-transitive. Because it is non-transitive. That is the meaning of a non-transitive. If Amazon says that peering connection is a transitive, then automatically 1 and 3 will be connected with peering connection. But that's not the case here because the VPC peering is non-transitive. You have to remember these two things. One is VPC peering is a non-transitive peering. And if you would like to create the peering connection between two VPC, the VPCs should not have overlapping CIDR blocks. That means they both must have two different network blocks. And the VPCs can be in any account and can be in any region. That doesn't matter. And also, after creating the VPC peering, you must create a route in all the route tables to establish the communication between the two VPCs. Without creating the appropriate routes or required routes, even though there is a peering connection, VPCs cannot be communicate with each other. Okay, right. So this is about the VPC peering. And also, once we are done with the practical, always it is recommended to delete, right? Now let us see how to delete the VPC. How to delete the VPC. Can I go ahead and can I delete the VPC directly? Because already one instance is running in the second VPC, right? While the instance is running, can I delete the VPC? If yes, what will happen to the instance which is already available in that VPC? Does the instance will be automatically deleted, or is it will be moved to a different VPC? We will see that. So I will keep that instance running. While the instance is available, I will try to delete the VPC. Then we can observe what will happen. If the VPC or if the AWS is allowed to delete the VPC, and if they delete the EC2 instance automatically, do you think that that is a good or recommended way to handle the things? Okay, or if you're trying to delete the VPC, and if there are some services or resources are running, and if Amazon is moving all the existing servers or services to a different VPC, then do you think that that is a right way to handle the request? Simply, they are moving your servers from one data center to another data center. Do you think that is it acceptable? That might be created a different customer account, right? That will be moved to a different customer network, which is not recommended, right? So that's why what Amazon will do is, if there is any service running, Amazon will never allow you to delete the VPC. I will show you that. So right now we are in Mumbai, right? So we will start with deleting the Mumbai VPC. So go to your VPCs and select the VPC, click on actions, and you can click on delete VPC. Unable to delete. But how should we know why we were unable to delete? Because I cannot go to each and every option to check what all are available, right? So here you can see why Amazon is not allowing you to delete is there is one EC2 instance running. there is one network interface, which is of this EC2 instance. And this VPC is having a peering connection. If you remove all these three, then automatically Amazon will allow you to delete the VPC. How to delete that? First, we have to delete the peering connection, right? Go to the peering connection, select the VPC peering, click on actions, delete peering connection. And delete, here there are two different options. Delete related route table entries, so that whatever the route tables are there, they will be deleted automatically. I mean, not route tables, routes in the route table, whatever the routes associated with that. If you select the second option, then you have to delete the additional routes manually. Which one is recommended? Always the first one. Okay, then select that and type delete. And then here also it is showing what two routes are getting deleted. This route in the private one route table and this route in the public route table. Click on delete and the VPC peering is getting deleted. And then what else we have to delete? EC2 instance. Let me go to the EC2 service. So do we need to delete the route table also manually? Yes or no? No. Why? Because while you are trying to delete the VPC, Amazon doesn't show error that you are using a route table. Because of that, you are unable to delete the VPC. It doesn't show such kind of warning, right? That means Amazon will delete that route tables, internet gateway, everything automatically while you are deleting the VPC. NAT gateways, you have to delete. NAT instance, you have to delete. Okay, right. So it will take some time. So instance state is shutting down. You have to wait till it is showing as terminated. Then only we can say that instance got deleted completely. Once it is terminated, then we will go to the what we call that the EC2 instance and we will check that. Sorry, VPC, and we will try to delete it. Even though you delete all the things, for some time it will not allow you to delete, because Amazon will consider that still the instance is available in your account, or the network interface is available in your Amazon account. Just I will show you the workaround so that we can delete the VPC instantly without waiting for a long time and all the things. Okay, so the same thing I can do on the my first VPC also, because that is taking some time, right? I will delete the peering connection. What happened? Already deleted, because there we deleted, automatically here it will got deleted. And then we have to, what we have to? Instances. Yeah. Just I will delete the EC2 instances from the my first VPC also, so that I can close that immediately. And also you have to cross check that, do you have any, what we call that, any elastic IPs or any NAT gateways? Everything you have to remove. Load balancers are also chargeable, right? So don't just make them running, clean up all the things. And you can see there is one elastic IP address, right? Let me remove that also. It seems it is associated with something. Where it got associated? 192.168.1.130 might be a NAT gateway. Yeah, NAT gateway. It was associated with NAT gateway. Okay, it seems I forgot to delete it. Let me delete that NAT gateway also. From where we have to delete the NAT gateway? VPC. You have to go to VPC service. Simple thing, where you created the service, from the same location you have to delete it. Go to the VPC, and here you can see the NAT gateways. Click on that, select it and delete NAT gateway and type delete, and it will be deleted. And you have to wait for that. It will take like 2 to 3 minutes. Once it got deleted, what will happen to the associated elastic IP? That will be automatically released, or that will be available in your account. If that is not released and if that is sitting idle, then you will be charged. If you are using the elastic IP, it will not be charged. If you don't use and if you keep that elastic IP in your account, then you will be charged. So always you have to verify that is there any elastic IPs available in your account without associating to any instance, then it is always recommended to release the elastic IP addresses. Okay. Still it is getting deleted. Okay, that will take some time. Let us go back to our Mumbai VPC. Instance got deleted, right? Can we delete the VPC now? There is no pending services available. So let me go to the VPC. Click on your VPC. Select the VPC, actions, delete VPC. Now it is not showing any error. And you can say that if you delete that VPC, it will delete the internet gateway. It will delete the private route table, public route table, private one subnet, public one subnet. These are the things are getting deleted automatically. So no need to worry about those components. They will be automatically deleted. If any instance is running, you cannot delete that VPC. Okay. What will happen to the security groups? They will be automatically deleted. I mean, the security groups which are available in that VPC will be automatically deleted. So in the same way, we have to clean up the Northern Virginia thing also. So it got deleted, right? So if I go to the elastic IP, still the elastic IP is there, right? So select the checkbox, click on actions, release elastic IP address. Elastic IP will be released. Now go to your VPC. Let me try to delete that VPC also. And don't delete the default VPC, guys. Don't delete the default VPC. It seems it is not showing any error. I can delete it. This is how you can clean up the VPC. Because we are using this for practice purpose. So we have to delete whatever we created. Otherwise, you will be charged a very huge amount. Okay. And every month, or like on 2nd or 3rd, just go to your billing dashboard and check that is there any pending bills. If you have a bill, create a support ticket and they will give you some kind of a credit voucher. Okay. And don't do it multiple times because they don't give you more than 2 times. Maximum, they will give you 1 or 2 times only. From the 3rd time onwards, they will say that you have to pay. So that's why while you're doing the practicals, you have to be very careful that once you're done with your practical, you have to delete all the things. Okay. All right. But as of now, whatever we created, I think NAT gateway is the only one which is not eligible for free time. But going forward, we have one more service called RDS database. There is one concept called multi-AZ deployment, which is not free tier eligible. So every day you are running, you will get charged like with the lowest possible thing, you will be charged like $50 per day. So in that case, if you delete like within 1 hour, hardly you will not get like more than 3 rupees or 4 rupees, right? Hardly 10 rupees. But if you create it, if you leave it for 7 days, you will be charged like $4 also. If you forget about for 1 month, you will get $15. If that is the basic instance. If you create something big, you will get like hundreds of dollars bill. Okay. Right. So any questions on this VPC? Any questions on this VPC? Okay. So if you guys are clear, let us stop the session and let us continue on Monday. Monday, mostly we will discuss about a topic called Route 53, which is a domain registrar and a DNS service. Okay. Okay, then thank you, everyone. We'll continue on Monday. Before completing like 80% or so, I will share the questions. Certificate course completion. Once completion of the course, they will need the physical certificate directly. You can go there for details of ID card or payments, whatever it is. They will give you 5 minutes. You need to get like a soft copy. You have to apply some link but that will get delayed. Hard copy directly you can get it. Very కావాలంటే క్రియేట్ చేయాలి. సపోర్ట్ రిక్వెస్ట్ చేస్తే వాళ్ళు క్రియేట్ చేయాలి. మీరు క్రియేట్ చేస్తే నార్మల్ VPC సేమ్ అలాగే క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చు, కానీ డిఫాల్ట్ VPC అని చూపించు. సేమ్ క్రియేట్ చేయొచ్చు, బట్ అదైతే ఎక్కడ చూడాలి బిల్ అంతే ఉంటుంది. పెండింగ్ మీద పెండింగ్ బిల్స్ అని ఉంటుంది ఒక ఆప్షన్, అక్కడ చూడండి, అక్కడ సిలో ఉంటే బిల్ ఆల్రెడీ జనరేట్ అయిపోయింది కదా. బిల్ $100 అనుకోండి, $100 ఎప్పుడు చూపిస్తుంది 1 year తర్వాత కూడా పెండింగ్ అని ఉంటుంది. చూడాలి పే నవ్ అని క్లిక్ చేయండి, అక్కడ ఏమైనా అమౌంట్ చూస్తేనే. మీరు ఫస్ట్ టికెట్ లో మీకు వాళ్ళు ఏమని ఇచ్చారు మ్యాటర్ చదివితే అక్కడ ఉంటుంది. సో చూడండి, వాళ్ళకి క్లియర్ చేసాము అంటే సెకండ్ టికెట్ అవసరం లేదు.